In this video, we'll be taking a look at 5 NBA games happening on February 28, 2026, and providing you with free team picks and total picks for each one of those games, so 10 picks in total. Welcome back to Cash Out Sports. Let's dive right into it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and to click the bell icon to get notified as soon as these videos get released, so that you have more time to plan out your bets as we provide these videos on a daily basis. I can guarantee that you'll have all the important information that you'll need on these 5 NBA games after fully watching this video. One more thing before we start. If you would like to gain access to our best exclusive sports picks to take your journey to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below, where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Now let's get started. Portland Trail Blazers versus Charlotte Hornets. Both teams walk into this one with the exact same story on paper, 29-31, but the energy around them could not feel more different. Charlotte is playing like a group that just realized how dangerous it can be, piling up wins since late January and turning that stretch into a real statement run. The offense hums, the spacing looks clean, the ball zips around the perimeter, and that outside shooting has gone from pretty good to you really cannot leave anyone with a clean view of the rim. On top of that, they absolutely punish teams on the glass, grabbing more than their fair share of rebounds on both ends and ending a lot of possessions with one shot and done, which can feel demoralizing if you are the team stuck boxing out all afternoon. It helps that their main rotation is essentially intact, with no one of note listed on the injury report, so the coaching staff has the luxury of leaning into continuity and keeping everyone in their natural roles rather than taping lineups together. Charlotte has also enjoyed the kind of week that makes highlight shows fall in love, including that huge performance from Con Knueppel as he climbed past some big names in the rookie three-point record chase. When a young shooter like that gets rolling, it changes the whole geometry of the floor, and you can feel defenses start to cheat an extra step his way, which then opens space for everyone else to attack seams or crash the weak side. With LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller orchestrating and finishing plenty of those actions, plus a front line that understands how to seal, tip, and generally live in the paint, you get a profile that looks very much like the classic strong home favorite, the kind that bettors naturally gravitate toward in these spots. Honestly, it makes sense that the market leans their way before the ball even goes up. Portland, though, comes in with that annoying habit good underdogs have. They keep hanging around in games other teams expect them to fade out of. They have taken 6 of their last 9 despite an injury report that reads more like a mid-season triage sheet than a healthy playoff push. And that kind of stretch builds a quiet confidence, especially in a locker room that hears every outside doubt. Denny Avdija sitting in the doubtful range and Donovan Clingan hovering in that questionable zone makes the puzzle more complicated, while Shaedon Sharpe and Damian Lillard remain out and force the rest of the roster to accept a larger slice of the scoring burden. Let me explain why that actually fits this kind of spread battle. The absence of a couple of big-name scorers can nudge a team into a grittier, team-oriented approach that travels surprisingly well. This Blazers group leans on pace, effort, and a touch of controlled chaos, and even with their outside shooting sitting near the bottom of the league by percentage, they manage to generate enough volume and rim pressure to stay in striking distance most nights. Their size up front, with Clingan if he is cleared, Robert Williams III, and Yang Hansen, gives them actual muscle to throw at Charlotte's rebounding machine, which matters when the opponent usually bullies teams on the boards. On the perimeter, veterans like Jaru Holiday and Matisse Thybulle thrive in messy games where deflections, strips, and off-rhythm possessions pile up, something that becomes even more relevant with both teams ranking among the sloppiest in handling the ball. Here is the thing, in a matchup where both sides are turnover-prone and the underdog has enough size and defensive length to bother the favorite, that big shiny talent edge does not always translate to a runaway scoreboard. Layer on the early start, with a West Coast team trying to wake up its legs for a brunch tip in Charlotte, and you get a recipe where the home side can still look like the better team yet struggle to fully shake the visitor. That is exactly the sort of environment where backing the underdog to stay inside the number feels more like leaning into the rhythm of the matchup than fighting it. As our first pick for this matchup, the Portland Trail Blazers to cover the spread as underdogs is our full-game side pick. Portland likes to play fast, their offensive rating hovers in that respectable middle tier, and Charlotte has climbed near the top of the league on the strength of a high-powered attack that blends three-point volume with smart shot selection. On a stats page, that combination practically screams high scoring, which is exactly why the number on this matchup sits in the upper range. Honestly, that first impression can be a bit of a trap because it treats style and efficiency as if they automatically translate into a track meet every single time. Charlotte's recent surge has been about more than just making shots. It has been about control, particularly through their work on the glass. When a team dominates rebounding the way they have, especially on the offensive side, the game often slows into a series of deliberate, punishing possessions instead of a frantic back and forth. One long miss, one strong rebound, reset, and run your stuff again. It does not always feel fast, even if the final score from a few recent blowouts suggests an up-tempo show. Those big margin wins can inflate average point totals in a hurry, but the underlying pattern is a team that is perfectly comfortable grinding through half-court sets and squeezing the life out of opponents' second-chance hopes. Portland's offensive situation quietly nudges this matchup toward a more subdued scoring outlook as well. With Sharp sidelined and Avdija not at full certainty, a lot of the explosive wing scoring that usually gives their offense extra pop is either on the bench or playing through discomfort. That naturally shifts more weight onto bigs like Klingon and Williams, along with physical drives and trips to the line, which tend to chew clock and create a more methodical rhythm. If Klingon plays significant minutes, the Blazers are almost nudged into lineups that prioritize size and rim protection over small ball speed, and that usually means more bodies in the paint, more contested twos, and fewer quick, clean looks beyond the arc. Even if he sits, the simple fact that they must scrap for every rebound against an elite rebounding opponent invites longer, more physical possessions rather than open floor chaos. Both of these teams also carry a habit of turning the ball over more than coaches would like, and that has a strange double effect on totals. Sure, a handful of mistakes become easy transition points, but just as often a promising possession ends in a wasted trip, no shot at all, and a little deflation for the group walking back on defense. Blend that with an early afternoon tip, when shooting legs sometimes feel a step behind the mind, and you get plenty of ways for this to turn into a game of missed timing, short jumpers, and long, grinding stretches where the scoreboard stalls longer than fans expect. Here is the thing, when both the style of the favorite and the injury-shaped reality of the underdog lean toward more half-court possessions, extra wrestling matches on the glass, and a decent chunk of sloppy turnovers, the path to a slightly lower scoring outcome appears more realistic than the box score hype might suggest. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Houston Rockets versus Miami Heat. The Houston Rockets head to the Kaseya Center to face the Miami Heat on Saturday, and it feels like both teams are walking in with completely different vibes right now. The Rockets come in with some quiet confidence, while the Heat are still trying to figure out what they are supposed to be this season. Houston just took care of business against the Magic and the Kings, and they have the Wizards on deck, which is a nice little runway for them schedule-wise. They have won 4 of their last 5 games, so this group is not just feeling good, they are starting to expect results. Miami, on the other hand, just dropped games to the Bucks and the 76ers, then get the Nets next, so their recent stretch has been more choppy than convincing. They have won 4 of their last 7, which sounds fine at first glance, but it does not exactly scream juggernaut. In terms of bodies, the Rockets are still without Sean Tate, Steven Adams, and Jabari Smith Jr., so they are not anywhere close to full strength. The Heat are again missing Norman Powell and Nikola Jovic, so both sides are working around holes in their rotation rather than feeling fully loaded. Houston has squeezed what it can from a soft part of the schedule with 3 straight wins, and that matters because you want good teams to actually punish weaker opponents. Miami, even with some players returning from injury recently, still has not strung together the sort of momentum that makes you trust them. Miami will naturally get respect here because they are at home, and the Heat in South Beach have a reputation for being a different animal. That home aura is real sometimes, especially in a building that has seen big playoff moments, but it does not erase the specific matchup in front of us. Houston plays a brand of basketball on the road that actually holds up, and that is where things get more interesting than just saying Heat at home. The Rockets lean into physicality, defense, and squeezing value out of their transition chances. They care about rim protection and contesting at the point of attack. For a team like Miami that prefers to push the pace and stack points, you get a clear clash of styles that does not obviously favor the home side. Houston can slow things down, limit second-chance looks, and make the Heat work for everything inside for 4 quarters. That type of game is tiring, and it turns what should feel like a comfort zone for Miami into a grind. Now, the tricky part is the history between these two. Miami has won 9 of the last 10 meetings with Houston and has covered the number in the last 4 matchups. Those kinds of trends tug bettors toward the Heat, especially with the game in Miami. You look at that and think, surely it has to be the Heat spot again, right? In reality, that historical edge can make Miami more expensive, not more trustworthy. The Heat sit at 34-25 against the spread this season, which is very strong. The Rockets are 4 games under .500 against the spread at 27-31, so on paper it looks like Miami has been the better team for bettors. But that can also mean the market has caught up to Miami's reputation, while Houston is still treated like a team you do not fully believe in yet. The bigger issue is that this version of the Heat just does not inspire much confidence. As I have said before with this team, there is not much here that makes you feel they are building towards something. They stood still at the deadline, brought in no meaningful help, and you still see them dropping games to the tanking Jazz and a Bucks team missing its best player. That is not a profile of a group that is suddenly about to flip a switch and become reliable. The Rockets, for all their flaws, have a clearer talent edge right now and look more connected. They have stacked 3 wins in a row against weaker teams, which is exactly what competent teams are supposed to do. There is no reason to expect a drastically different level of effort or execution here just because the jersey on the other side says Miami. You get the sense that the Heat might eventually sort things out because the franchise has earned some respect over the years, but that is more faith in the logo than in the current form. With such a short number, it is tough to look past Houston to keep its rhythm going with a tight win and a cover. We are laying a small margin, and with this style matchup, that is not a concern for me. As our first pick for this matchup, the Houston Rockets to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. Houston is averaging 114.7 points on 47.5% shooting from the field while allowing 109.1 points on 45.5% shooting. They shoot 37.2% from 3 and 76% at the free throw line. They are holding opponents to 34.5% from deep and pulling down 48.3 rebounds per game. Miami is putting up 119.9 points per game on 46.3% shooting and giving up 117.2 points on 45.8% shooting. From beyond the arc, they are hitting 36.1% of their attempts and shooting 78.5% from the free throw line. They allow 35% shooting from 3 and secure 47.3 rebounds per contest. On the surface, those scoring numbers suggest the possibility of a higher output game, especially with both teams averaging solid totals and shooting reasonably well. However, the way Houston prefers to play can drag the tempo into a slower, more controlled environment. They defend the rim, they rebound, and they are comfortable living in the half court. That kind of approach can shave possessions off a game and keep totals from climbing too far. Miami's scoring average is impressive, but it has come in part against softer defenses and in games where the pace has been more to their liking. Against a team that can match their rebounding and challenge their drives, it becomes harder to consistently reach those top-line numbers. Houston's commitment to contesting threes and cleaning the glass makes it less likely that Miami gets repeated clean looks or easy putbacks. There is also the fatigue factor of a physical game, with both teams battling inside and working deeper into the shot clock on multiple trips. That sort of grind tends to favor more modest totals rather than track meets. Even if there are short bursts of scoring, the overall shape of the matchup points to a game that leans toward a lower combined output than those raw averages might hint at. Given the stylistic clash, Houston's defensive mindset, and the likelihood of a more methodical pace, the scoring projection tilts toward a quieter scoreboard rather than a fireworks show. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Toronto Raptors versus Washington Wizards. The Toronto Raptors head into Capital One Arena on Saturday night to square up with the Washington Wizards in a matchup that feels a lot more one-sided than the names suggest on paper. The Raptors are coming off losses to the Thunder and the Spurs, with the Knicks waiting for them next, so the schedule really has not done them many favors lately. Even so, they have won 9 of their last 15 games, which tells you they have been trending in the right direction more often than not. The Wizards just dropped games to the Hornets and the Hawks and have the Rockets up next, so their path is not exactly soft either. They have lost 46 of their last 64 games, which is a brutal stretch by any standard, and says plenty about where this team is mentally and on the floor. Toronto is still without Colin Murray-Boyles, so they are not totally untouched by injuries. Washington has already ruled out Anthony Davis, Alex Sarr, Trae Young, and Cam Whitmore, with Keyshawn George and Tristan Vukcevic both labeled as questionable, so their rotation looks thin and fragile again. With how depleted the Wizards have been, it makes sense that the Raptors opened as heavy favorites on the road. On the road this season, Toronto sits at 18-10 against the spread and straight up, which has quietly turned them into one of the better away teams in the league. Those are not empty numbers. That is a real pattern of handling business in opposing arenas. Their last 2 games came against the Thunder and the Spurs at home, and both ended in losses, which can sting a bit and maybe shake some casual confidence. The upside is that this matchup with Washington looks like a cleaner chance to reset and respond. The season series is tied at 1-1, but context matters a lot more than the raw split here. Toronto has taken 12 of the last 16 meetings between these two, which is a clear long-term edge. They have covered the spread in 7 of the last 9 matchups, which is exactly what you want to see if you are backing them again. In Washington, they are 5-1 against the spread in 6 road games, so this building has treated them pretty well. The Wizards teased a little life by winning their first 2 games after the break, but that spark faded quickly. They then lost the next 3 by 17, 21, and 30 points, which is not just losing, it is getting blown out repeatedly. The overall state of this team is rough. They checked out on the season a while ago, and they have refused to play their 2 big mid-season additions, Trae Young and Anthony Davis. Washington sits squarely in the group of teams that are clearly tanking, chasing a high draft pick and trying to reboot next year instead of patching this one. A 2-6 straight up and against the spread run over their last 8 games is a pretty clean signal of where things are heading. They have covered in just 2 of 15 games against Atlantic Division opponents, which is a woeful mark against this specific group of teams. Only the Sacramento Kings and Utah Jazz sit behind them in defensive efficiency this season, so you are looking at one of the weakest defenses in the league. Honestly, that kind of defensive profile is exactly what a locked-in opponent wants to see. The only real concern for Toronto here is the classic take-it-lightly spot. If they stroll in assuming the result is decided, things can get weird in the NBA. The hope, of course, is that they do not fall into that trap. They have already dominated much stronger opponents on the road this season, so the standard is set. As favorites, they are 22-13 straight up through 35 games overall, which shows they usually handle the games they are supposed to handle. Unlike Washington, the Raptors are close to full strength and do not feel like a team searching for a purpose. The Wizards, meanwhile, look more and more like a team fully committed to the tank as they roll out flat efforts, including back-to-back uninspiring showings against the Hawks. Even when they are getting plenty of points from the market most nights, they are only 24-34 against the spread, which is ugly. Toronto has been one of the surprise stories of the year, and they simply cannot afford to let a spot like this slip if they want to stay serious about a playoff push. Earlier in the year, you might have squinted and talked yourself into a Washington backdoor cover, just hoping their scoring would keep them hanging around. Right now, though, the depth is so thin and the motivation gap is so wide that it feels like wishful thinking. Toronto is the side that has something real to gain, and this is exactly the kind of game they should seize. The line feels heavy, but there is nothing appealing about stepping in front of this Wizards team in their current state. As our first pick for this matchup, the Toronto Raptors to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. The Raptors are averaging 113.6 points per game on 47.1% shooting from the field while allowing 111.8 points on 46% shooting. From deep, they are hitting 34.6% of their three-point attempts and converting 78.3% at the free throw line. They are holding opponents to 34.7% shooting from beyond the arc and pulling down 43 rebounds per game. The Wizards are averaging 112 points per game on 45.7% shooting and giving up a hefty 122.8 points on 47.5% shooting. They are knocking down 35.1% of their threes and shooting 77.3% at the free throw line. On the other side, they are allowing opponents to shoot 36.6% from three while collecting 43.4 rebounds per game. At first glance, those raw numbers might make you think of a lively, high-scoring contest, especially with Washington giving up that many points on average. There is a real case for offense on both sides based purely on season stats. But here is the thing, the way this particular game sets up can pull things in a quieter direction than the averages suggest. Toronto's defense is not elite, but it is respectable enough, and their rebounding is solid. They can keep the Wizards from piling up second-chance points and force them into more contested looks. When a team already struggling for rhythm has to work harder for every clean shot, the scoreboard tends to cool a bit. Washington's offense can score in spurts, but their inconsistency is a major problem. When fatigue, frustration, and a lack of depth kick in, long empty stretches are common. That matters for a total, because even a game that starts fast can drift into slower, messier basketball as legs get heavy and rotations thin out. Toronto's ability to control tempo and get into their sets also matters here. They do not need this to become a track meet, especially with a short-handed opponent on the other side. A more controlled pace, plus decent defensive effort, can quietly cut down the total number of possessions. There is also the very real chance of extended garbage time if the game gets lopsided. Those minutes often feature bench players who are less organized, and you get more turnovers, rushed shots, and broken possessions. That chaos does not always mean non-stop scoring. Sometimes it just means sloppy, low-quality basketball. Putting all of that together, the matchup points toward a final combined score that lands below what those surface-level averages might hint at. The ingredients are there for a game that feels more sluggish and controlled than explosive. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Los Angeles Lakers versus Golden State Warriors. The Los Angeles Lakers head up to Chase Center on Saturday night to take on the Golden State Warriors in a matchup that feels more about urgency than style points for the visitors. The schedule has not been kind to either side lately, which adds a bit of tension to this one. The Lakers are coming off losses to the Suns and the Magic, with the Kings on deck, so they are in one of those stretches where every result suddenly feels bigger. Even with the recent skid, they have still won 10 of their last 18 games, which shows they have at least been competitive over a decent sample and not totally spiraling. The Warriors just took a loss to the Pelicans but handled the Grizzlies, and they get the Clippers next, so they are bouncing between tough assignments as well. They have dropped 7 of their last 12, which hints at a group that has struggled to string together consistent performances, even if the talent on paper usually gets respect. From a health standpoint, the Lakers are slightly short-handed, with Rui Hachimura listed as doubtful, but otherwise they are in good shape compared to many teams. Golden State has already ruled out Stephen Curry, Seth Curry, Jimmy Butler III, and LJ Cryer, while Kristaps Porzingis has been upgraded to questionable, so their availability picture is messy and full of moving pieces. Despite not fully finding their rhythm, the Lakers open as road favorites against this Warriors squad that is clearly dealing with key absences. The most frustrating part for Los Angeles is that their most recent loss to the Suns came against a team missing 2 of its best players. That kind of defeat lingers because it exposes focus issues more than talent issues. If they carry that same mindset into this game and simply look at the Warriors as depleted, they can absolutely get themselves into trouble again. The Lakers will walk into this one hoping to snap a 3-game losing streak, which is never a comfortable place for a team with expectations. One small silver lining is that their last 2 losses, 110-109 against Orlando and 113-110 against Phoenix, were tight right until the final seconds. They are not getting blown off the floor, they are just not finishing. On the positive side, they are basically at full health, with only Hachimura listed as day-to-day with an illness, so there are no major built-in excuses. Golden State does not come in with any real momentum either. They sit at 6-9 over their last 15 games and have not managed back-to-back wins since a hot run from January 13th to January 19th. They just beat Memphis on Wednesday, which means they need to break that recent pattern if they want to stack another win on Saturday. Doing that without Stephen Curry, who is still out while his right knee gets reevaluated, is a big ask. It gets tougher when you add that Jimmy Butler is out for the season with an ACL injury, D'Antoni Melton is questionable with a knee issue, and Kristaps Porzingis has the usual cloud of uncertainty around his status due to illness. With that many key names either unavailable or in doubt, it becomes very hard to trust that the Warriors can field a truly competitive group for a full 48 minutes. These two squared off on February 7th, and Los Angeles handled business 105-99 even without Luka Doncic, which shows the Lakers already know how to manage this matchup without everything going perfectly in their favor. Now, to be fair, the Warriors are rarely an easy opponent at home, and they are expected to have Draymond back, which always gives them some edge in energy and edge in personality. Still, with all the injuries and question marks, this version of Golden State is not nearly as dangerous as the name suggests when Curry is out of uniform. The Lakers, for their part, are healthy for the most part and are clearly in a spot where they simply need a win. 3 straight losses, including an embarrassing setback to a short-handed Suns team, puts them in a place where there is no room for casual effort or shortcuts. If they are serious about chasing a strong playoff seed and actually making noise when April rolls around, this kind of road game against a banged-up opponent sits very close to must-win territory. The number being asked of them is reasonable, and the situation lines up for a response rather than another excuse. As our first pick for this matchup, the Los Angeles Lakers to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full-game side pick. The Lakers are averaging 115.5 points per game on 49.8% shooting from the field, while allowing 115.9 points on 48.6% shooting on the defensive end. They are hitting 35.2% of their attempts from beyond the arc and 76.9% from the free throw line. They are giving up 36.5% shooting from deep and pulling down 40.8 rebounds per contest. The Warriors are putting up 115.8 points per game on 46.2% shooting and surrendering 113.8 points on 47.2% shooting. They are knocking down 36.2% of their three-point attempts and converting a strong 80.8% at the free throw line. Defensively, they are allowing opponents to shoot 35.1% from long range while grabbing 42.9 rebounds per game. Looking at those averages, you can see that both offenses sit in a similar range in terms of production, and both defenses allow plenty of efficiency. Neither side is built on locking games into rock fights, and the scoring numbers show that clearly. Even with some injuries on the Warriors' side, there are still enough capable shooters and shot makers in their rotation to keep their offense from completely disappearing, especially at home. For the Lakers, the high field goal percentage speaks to their ability to get good looks in the paint and in mid-range, often through physical drives and smart passing. That type of approach tends to travel, and it often leads to steady scoring quarters rather than long droughts. When both teams are comfortable playing at a respectable pace and are capable of trading baskets for stretches, totals can climb in a hurry. The three-point numbers for both sides are not elite, but they are solid enough that a good shooting night from either group can tilt the game toward a higher output. Add in decent free throw percentages, especially for Golden State, and you have extra scoring chances with the clock stopped that help totals creep upward. Even if there are moments where the game slows down, the overall profile here leans toward enough possessions and enough efficiency on both ends to keep the scoreboard busy. With each team sitting in the mid-100 teens in both scoring and points allowed, the expectation tilts toward a matchup that features plenty of offense rather than a grind. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed, subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.